The morning light filtered through my kitchen window the same way it had for 43 years in this house, casting familiar shadows across the worn linoleum floor. I was 71 years old, and my hands had developed that slight tremor that comes with age as I poured my coffee into the chipped blue mug Harold had given me for our 25th anniversary. He'd been gone 8 years now, but I still used that mug every morning. Some habits are too precious to break. I lived simply. My Social Security covered the basics, and the small savings Harold left me helped with unexpected expenses. The house was paid off, thank God for that, but it showed its age just like I did. The wallpaper in the hallway was peeling at the corners, and the carpet in the living room had worn thin where Harold used to pace during football games. I'd grown to love these imperfections. They were honest, like old scars that tell a story. My daughter Jessica lived 20 minutes away in what she called the good part of town. Her husband Marcus was a successful orthodontist, and they owned a sprawling colonial with perfectly manicured hedges and a 3-car garage. When she was growing up in this very kitchen, Jessica used to say she'd never leave me alone when I got old. She'd promised to take care of me, to make sure I was never lonely. Children make a lot of promises they can't keep. The phone rang as I was washing my breakfast dishes. Jessica's name appeared on the caller ID, and my heart did that little skip. It always did when she called. Despite everything, she was still my baby girl. "Hi, sweetheart," I answered, drying my hands on the dish towel. "Mom, I have some news." Her voice had that carefully controlled tone she used when she was about to tell me something she thought I wouldn't like. Pregnant. The dish towel slipped from my hands. "Oh, Jessica. That's wonderful. How far along are you?" 12 weeks. We wanted to wait until we were sure everything was okay before telling anyone. I felt a flutter of hurt that they'd kept this from me for 3 months, but I pushed it aside. "I'm so happy for you both. This is such a blessing." There was a pause. Mom, Marcus, and I have been talking about boundaries. With the baby coming, we want to make sure we're surrounded by the right influences. Right. Something cold settled in my stomach. "What do you mean?" "Well, you know how you live. The house is falling apart. You barely scrape by on Social Security. We don't want our child exposed to that kind of ... struggle. It's not the image we want to project for our family." The words hit me like a physical blow. I gripped the counter to steady myself. "Jessica, what are you saying?" Saying that? Unless things change significantly with your financial situation, we think it's best if you have limited contact with the baby. We've worked hard to build a certain lifestyle, and we want our child to understand success and achievement, not making do with less. I stared at my reflection in the kitchen window. Seeing a woman who'd raised her daughter alone after Harold's heart attack, who'd worked 2 jobs to put Jessica through college, who'd sacrificed her own dreams so her child could have better. The woman staring back at me looked small and defeated. "You're saying I'm too poor to be your child's grandmother?" "I'm saying we have standards, Mom. Look, if you could maybe sell the house, move into a nice senior community, maybe get some help with your appearance and wardrobe, we could discuss it. But as things stand..." She let the sentence hang in the air like a blade. I found my voice, though it came out as barely a whisper. "I raised you in this house. I loved you in this house, okay? And I'm grateful for that. I really am. But I'm not a child anymore, and I have my own family to think about. We'll send pictures, of course. And maybe when the baby's older, if things improve for you financially, we can revisit this. The line went quiet except for my own breathing, which sounded unnaturally loud in my ears. I have to go, Mom. My yoga instructor is here. We'll talk soon, okay? The dial tone echoed through my empty kitchen. I stood there for what felt like hours, still holding the phone. The coffee in my mug had gone cold, and the morning light had shifted, leaving my corner of the kitchen in shadow. For the first time since Harold died, I felt truly alone. The weeks that followed blurred together in a haze of hurt and confusion. Jessica called twice, both times brief and businesslike, updating me on doctor's appointments and nursery preparations like I was a distant acquaintance rather than her mother. She mentioned baby showers and family gatherings I wasn't invited to, casually dropping hints about all the wonderful things Marcus's family was doing to help prepare for their grandchild. Marcus's mother found the most beautiful antique crib at an estate sale, she told me during one particularly painful call. It cost $3,000, but she didn't even blink. That's the kind of generosity our baby deserves. I wanted to tell her about the crib I'd lovingly refinished for her when she was born. How I'd sanded every spindle by hand and painted it soft yellow because we couldn't afford to find out if she was a boy or girl. But I said nothing. What was the point? The isolation was crushing. I'd been so proud of Jessica, had bragged about her success to my few remaining friends at the senior center. Now I found myself making excuses for why she couldn't visit, why I hadn't met my son-in-laws, family, why I knew so little about the pregnancy. The lies tasted bitter in my mouth. One evening in late November, I was sorting through old photo albums when I came across pictures from Jessica's childhood. There she was at age 7, gap-toothed and grinning, hugging me tight after I'd surprised her with a homemade Halloween costume. I'd stayed up 3 nights straight sewing that fairy princess dress because we couldn't afford a store-bought one. She'd told everyone at school that her mom was magic because she could make anything beautiful. Where had that little girl gone? Where was the Jessica who used to crawl into bed with me during thunderstorms? Who made me paper flowers every Mother's Day? Who told me I was the most beautiful woman in the world even when I was exhausted and wearing my oldest clothes? The phone rang, jarring me from my memories. It was Jessica again. Mom, I need you to do something for me. Not, how are you? Or I've been thinking about you. Just a demand. What is it, sweetheart? The baby shower is this Saturday. Says. Colleagues will be there, and some important clients. I need you to not call or stop by or anything that weekend. Actually, maybe not that whole week. I just, I can't have any distractions. My throat felt like sandpaper. You don't want me at your baby shower? Mom, we talked about this. It's not personal. It's just that Marcus's mother is hosting, and she's invited all the right people. People who can provide good networking opportunities for Marcus's practice. You wouldn't fit in. I wouldn't fit in at my own daughter's baby shower. Please don't make this harder than it has to be. Look, I'll save you some cake, okay? Maybe you can come by the following week and see the gifts. The following week, like I was a charity case being granted a favor. Jessica, do you remember when you were 12 and had pneumonia? I slept in that chair next to your bed for 6 nights. Straight because I was terrified you'd stop breathing. Do you remember that? Silence. I remember a lot of things, Mom. I also remember wearing clothes from Goodwill and being embarrassed when friends came over. Oh. I remember you serving dinner on mismatched plates and apologizing for not having enough food. I don't want that for my child. Those mismatched plates were all I could afford after paying for your dance lessons and soccer cleats and everything else you wanted. I thought we were happy. We made do. There's a difference. After she hung up, I sat in Harold's old recliner and cried until my chest ached. Then I dried my eyes, went to my bedroom closet, and moved aside the clothes hanging in the back. Behind them was a small safe Harold had installed years ago. Inside were our important documents, birth certificates, insurance policies, and a manila envelope I hadn't touched since Harold's funeral. I'd never told Jessica about the envelope. There'd never seemed to be a reason to. Harold had been a simple man with simple tastes. But he'd been smart about money in ways that surprised even me. For 30 years, he'd quietly invested small amounts in what he called boring old companies, utilities, telecommunications, a few pharmaceutical stocks. Nothing flashy, nothing risky. He'd reinvested every dividend, never touching the principal. It's for your future, Betty, he'd told me the week before he died. Promise me you won't let anyone make you feel small because of money. Promise me you'll use this if you ever need to hold your head high. The account statements showed a balance that would have shocked Jessica into silence. Harold's boring. Old companies had done very well over 3 decades. Between the investments and his life insurance policy, I was worth just over $1.2 million. I'd been living like a pauper while sitting on a fortune, and I'd done it intentionally. Money changes people, and I'd seen too many families torn apart by inheritance battles and greed. I'd wanted to know who truly loved me for myself. Who would stand by me when I had nothing to offer but my presence and my heart? Now I knew. The next morning, I called my lawyer, Mr. Davidson, who'd handled Harold's estate. His secretary remembered me and squeezed me in that afternoon. Double quotes, Mrs. Patterson. What a pleasant surprise. How can I help you? I sat across from his mahogany desk. Wearing my best dress, which admittedly wasn't much, and feeling more determined than I had in months. I need to update my will. Of course. Have there been changes in your family situation? You could say that. I pulled out the notes I'd made the night before. I want to leave my estate to the Children's Hospital Pediatric Wing, the literacy program at the public library, and a scholarship fund for underprivileged students at Jessica's old high school. Mr. Davidson's eyebrows rose slightly. And your daughter Jessica? $1, so she can't claim I forgot her. Mrs. Patterson, that's a substantial estate to divert away from your only child. Are you certain this is what you want? I thought about Jessica's voice when she told me I wasn't good enough for her child. I thought about being excluded from baby showers and family gatherings because I didn't project the right image. I thought about Harold's promise that I should never let anyone make me feel small because of money. I'm certain. The documents were drawn up within a week. I signed them on a cold December morning with Mr. Davidson's secretary serving as witness. The will was ironclad. Mr. Davidson had made sure of that. If Jessica wanted to contest it, she'd have a very difficult time. I drove home slowly, taking the long way through Jessica's neighborhood. Her house looked picture perfect, with expensive cars in the driveway and holiday decorations that probably cost more than I spent on groceries in 3 months. I wondered if she was happy behind those perfectly painted walls, or if she'd traded genuine joy for the appearance of success. That evening, she called with another update. The nursery is almost finished. Marcus hired a professional decorator. You should see it. Mom, it looks like something out of a magazine. Everything matches perfectly. That sounds lovely. And we've decided on a name if it's a girl. Sophia Claire. Doesn't that sound sophisticated? Sophia. I'd suggested that name when she was pregnant, mentioning that it had been my grandmother's name. She dismissed it then, saying it was too old-fashioned. It's beautiful, I said, and meant it. Marcus's mother is throwing another party next weekend, a gender reveal. Pink or blue, you know? It's going to be quite the event. A catered affair with over 50 guests. Oh, that sounds wonderful. It really is amazing, having family. Who can do these things? Who understand how important these milestones are and want to celebrate them properly? The casual cruelty of the comment took my breath away, as if I'd never understood the importance of milestones, as if I'd never wanted to celebrate her achievements. I'd thrown her birthday parties with homemade decorations and cake from a box mix. But she'd squealed with delight and hugged me tight, telling me I was the best mom in the world. Mom, are you there? I'm here. Good. I was worried we'd lost connection. Anyway, I should go. Marcus and I are meeting his parents for dinner at that new French place downtown. I'll call you soon. But she didn't call soon. Christmas came and went without a word from her. I spent the holiday alone, looking at pictures of Jessica's celebration on social media, Marcus's family surrounding her, like she'd always belonged to them. Expensive gifts piled under a tree that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. In January, she called to tell me the baby was a girl, and they were naming her Sophia Claire. When is she due? I asked. 6 weeks. Everything's going perfectly. Marcus's mother has already bought enough clothes to last through the first year. And his sister is planning the christening. It's going to be at their country club. Will I be invited to the christening? A pause. Mom, we've been through this. Maybe when Sophia's older, when she can understand different lifestyles better, we can arrange something. But for now, it's just too complicated. Too complicated. My granddaughter's christening was too complicated to include her actual grandmother. I understand, I said, though I didn't understand at all. I knew you would. You've always been reasonable about these things. After she hung up, I sat in my quiet kitchen and realized something had shifted inside me. The hurt was still there, sharp and present, but it was joined by something else, something harder, something that felt like resolution. Sophia Claire Patterson Williams was born on February 14th, Valentine's Day. I learned about it not from Jessica, but from a birth announcement posted on Facebook. 7 pounds, 3 ounces, 20 inches long. Perfect in every way. According to the caption, The photos showed Marcus's family crowding around Jessica's hospital bed, everyone beaming at the camera. There were professional flowers in expensive vases, balloons that spelled out baby girl, and enough stuffed animals to stock a toy store. I stared at the pictures for a long time, studying my daughter's face. She looked radiant, surrounded by her new family, holding the baby I would probably never meet. In that moment, I felt something I'd never expected to feel toward my own child, a complete indifference to her happiness. It should have scared me. That cold emptiness where maternal love used to live. Instead, it felt like freedom. 3 weeks later, Jessica called. "Mom, I have a favor to ask." Of course she did. Marcus's practice is expanding, and we're looking at houses in an even better neighborhood. The thing is, we're just slightly short on the down payment. I was wondering if you could maybe get a second mortgage on your house and help us out. Just $20,000. We'd pay you back, of course. I nearly laughed. After months of being told I wasn't good enough to be part of their lives, now she wanted my money. $20,000 is a lot of money, Jessica. I know, but this house would be such a good investment for our future. For Sophia's future. Think about it too, to be helping secure your granddaughter's life. The granddaughter I wasn't allowed to meet because I might contaminate her with my poverty. Think about it, I said. Really? Oh, Mom, that would be amazing. Marcus will be so relieved. His mother offered to help, but she's already done so much, and we hate to keep asking, but asking me was fine. Asking the grandmother who wasn't good enough to attend baby showers was perfectly acceptable when money was involved. I said I'd think about it, Jessica. I didn't say yes, right? Of course, but you will seriously consider it. This could change everything for us. Change everything. The irony was breathtaking. I'll let you know. That night, I called Mr. Davidson. I want to add a codicil to my will, I told him. What kind of codicil? If my daughter contacts me asking for money before my death, I want her inheritance reduced to 50 cents instead of $1. And I want a letter to be read at the will reading, explaining exactly why. Mrs. Patterson, are you certain about this? I thought about Jessica's voice, bright with excitement at the prospect of my money. The same voice that had told me I wasn't suitable to be her daughter's grandmother. I've never been more certain of anything in my life. The codicil was added. The next day, I also gave Mr. Davidson a sealed letter to be opened only upon my death, explaining in detail why I'd made my decisions. It was important to me that Jessica understands this wasn't a spontaneous act of spite, but the result of her own choices. When Jessica called back a week later, I was ready. Have you thought about the loan? We really need to move forward. With this house, I've thought about it. And the answer is no. Silence, then no. But Mom, this is important. This is about Sophia's future. Sophia's future was sealed when you decided I wasn't good enough to be part of it. That's not fair. We never said you weren't good enough. We just said you said I was too poor to be your child's grandmother. You excluded me from every celebration, every milestone, every moment of joy. But now you want my money. It's not like that. It's exactly like that, Jessica. You've made it very clear what you think of me. I'm finally starting to believe you. Mom, don't be dramatic. We can work this out. Maybe we were a little hasty about some things. Maybe we can figure out a way for you to be more involved. Maybe. Yes, maybe. If you help us with this house, we could definitely reconsider some of our boundaries. Okay. The transaction was laid bare. Now my love was worthless, but my money could buy me access to my own granddaughter. No, Jessica. The answer is no, and it will remain no. Fine. Fine, I should have known better than to expect help from you. Marcus's family would never treat us this way. You're right. They wouldn't. They also wouldn't have raised you alone, worked 2 jobs to put you through college, or sacrificed their own dreams for your happiness. But you're absolutely right. They wouldn't treat you this way. I hung up before she could respond. The months that followed were the quietest of my life. Jessica didn't call, and I didn't call her. I saw pictures of Sophia on social media, her first smile, her first attempt to sit up, her being doted on by Marcus's parents and siblings. She was a beautiful baby, and I felt a distant sort of sadness that I would never hold her, never sing her lullabies, never be the grandmother I'd always dreamed of being. But the sadness wasn't sharp anymore. It was like an old scar present, but no longer painful. I began to enjoy my life in ways I hadn't in years. I volunteered at the library, helping children with reading. I joined a book club at the senior center. I took art classes and discovered I had a talent for watercolors. I traveled, taking small trips to places Harold and I had always planned to visit but never had the money for. I was living well within my means, touching none of Harold's investments, but I was living fully for the first time since his death. The house might have been shabby, my clothes might have been simple, but I was rich in ways Jessica would never understand. One evening in late September, almost a year since Jessica's pregnancy announcement, my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone, and it was past the time when solicitors usually came around. I peered through the peephole and saw Jessica standing on my front porch, holding a baby carrier. I opened the door but left the chain latch engaged. Hi, Mom, Jessica. I brought Sophia. I thought you might like to meet her. Through the crack in the door, I could see into the carrier. The baby was awake, her dark eyes alert and curious. She was beautiful, with Harold's nose and what looked like my chin. My granddaughter. Why now? I asked. Marcus and I have been having some problems. Financial problems, okay? His practice isn't doing as well as expected, and we might lose the house. I thought, I thought maybe we could talk. About money. About family. About Sophia needing her grandmother. I studied my daughter's face. She looked tired, older than her 32 years. The designer clothes were still there, but they couldn't hide the stress lines around her eyes or the slight tremor in her voice. Sophia has a grandmother, Akos's mother, who has the right kind of money and the right kind of house and the right kind of everything. Mom, please. I know I made mistakes. No, I said things I shouldn't have said. But I'm here now, and I want to make it right. Because you need money. Because I need my mother. The words hung in the air between us. Part of me wanted to believe them, wanted to undo the chain latch and let them both into my home and my heart. But I'd learned something this past year about the difference between wanting to believe and actually believing. I'm sorry, Jessica, but I don't think so. Mom, please, just meet her. Told her once. She's your granddaughter. I looked down at the baby again. Sophia was staring right at me, and for a moment, I could swear she smiled. My heart clenched, but I kept my voice steady. She's your daughter. You made that choice a long time ago. I'll change. I promise I'll change. We can be a family again. The time for that was 10 months ago, when you told me I wasn't good enough for your family. The time for that was when you excluded me from every celebration, every milestone, every moment of joy. The time for that was before you called me only when you needed money. Jessica's face crumpled. Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was wrong about everything. Yes, you were. But being sorry now doesn't undo the damage. I started to close the door, then stopped. Jessica, I want you to know something. I'm not the poor, pathetic woman you thought I was. I never was. Your father left me very well provided for, and I've been living simply by choice, not necessity. I could have helped you financially any time over the past year. I chose not to. Her eyes widened. What do you mean? I mean, I have more money than Marcus will make in the next 10 years. I mean, I could have bought you that house you wanted without blinking. I mean, you threw away a relationship with someone who could have given you everything you thought you wanted from Marcus's family. Mom, I'm dying, Jessica. The words came out calm and matter of fact, though I'd only gotten the diagnosis the week before. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. 6 months, maybe less. The doctors found it too late to do anything meaningful about it. So you see, time really has run out for us. Jessica's face went white. No, that can't be true. It's true. And here's what else is true. I've left everything to charity. Every penny. You'll inherit 50 cents and a letter explaining why. You can't do that. I can, and I have. It's done. Jessica stared at me, baby carrier in her hands. Shock and devastation and anger warring across her features. You're doing this to punish me? I'm doing this to honor your father's memory and to make sure my money goes to people who will appreciate it. People who won't judge others by their bank balance. Sophia will be fine. She has Marcus's family, remember? The family with the right kind of everything. I closed the door gently but firmly, turned the deadbolt, and walked back to my quiet living room. Through the window, I watched Jessica stand on my porch for several minutes, holding her baby. Before finally walking back to her car, she called dozens of times over the next few weeks. I didn't answer. She came to the house several more times. I didn't open the door. She sent letters, emails, text messages. I deleted them all unread. 3 months later, when the pain was getting harder to manage and I'd moved into hospice care, Mr. Davidson came to see me. She's been calling the office, he told me. Jessica. She wants to know if there's anything she can do to change your mind about the will. What did you tell her? That it's too late for that. But Mrs. Patterson, I have to ask, are you at peace with this decision? I looked out the window of my hospice room at a small garden where families often gathered to say goodbye. I thought about Harold, about the promises we'd made to each other, about the daughter I'd raised who'd grown into someone I barely recognized. I am, I said. I truly am. And the letter. You still want that read at the will reading? Specially? The letter. Mr. Davidson nodded and squeezed my hand. You're a remarkable woman, Betty Patterson. I'm a woman who learned too late that love without respect is worthless, but I learned it nonetheless. I died on a Tuesday morning in February, with the hospice staff holding my hands and sunshine streaming through my window. My last thought was of Harold, and how proud he would be that I'd finally learned to hold my head high. The will reading was held the following week. Jessica attended with Marcus, both of them dressed in expensive black clothing. Both of them looking expectant despite everything that had happened between us. When Mr. Davidson read the part about Jessica's inheritance, 50 cents the silence in the room was profound. Then he opened my letter. Mrs. Patterson requested that this be read aloud, he said, and began. My dear Jessica, by the time you hear this, you'll know that you've inherited 50 cents from my estate. I want you to understand that this wasn't a decision made in anger or spite, but rather the result of careful consideration of the choices you made and the values you demonstrated. You told me I was too poor to be part of your daughter's life. You excluded me from celebrations, milestones, and moments of joy because you were ashamed of my financial circumstances. You judged my worth as a human being, as your mother based solely on my bank balance. What you didn't know is that I was never poor. Your father left me well provided for, with investments worth over $1 million. I chose to live, simply not because I had to, but because I wanted to know who would love me for myself rather than for what I could provide. You failed that test completely. The money you're not inheriting will go to causes that help people who understand the difference between having wealth and having worth. It will help children whose families can't afford books, medical care, and education, children whose grandmothers love them regardless of their financial circumstances. I hope someday you'll teach Sophia that a person's value isn't measured in dollars and that family love shouldn't come with conditions. I hope you'll be a better mother to her than you were a daughter to me. Your father used to say that the measure of a person isn't what they accumulate, but what they give and how they treat others when they have nothing to gain. I tried to teach you that lesson through words. In the end, I had to teach it through actions. I forgive you, Jessica, but I don't trust you. And I won't reward cruelty, even when it comes from my own child. Love should have been enough. It should have been more than enough. With sadness for what we could have been, your mother, according. To Mr. Davidson, Jessica and Marcus left the office in stunned silence. She never tried to contest the will. Perhaps she knew it would be futile. Or perhaps she finally understood that some choices have permanent consequences. I'd like to think that somewhere, in a house she probably had to sell, Jessica is raising Sophia to value people for their hearts, rather than their bank accounts. I'd like to think she learned something from losing everything she thought she wanted. But honestly, I don't think about Jessica much anymore. Where I am now, there's no room for regret or anger, only understanding. I understand that some people confuse love with transaction, okay? That some children grow up to see their parents as resources rather than human beings. That some families are held together by obligation rather than affection. I also understand that choosing dignity over desperation was the right decision, even when it was the hardest one. Now that you've heard my story, I wonder, have you ever been told you weren't enough because of your income, your age, or your circumstances? Have your own children ever treated your love like it had a price tag attached? Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'd love to see how far this message of quiet strength has traveled. Getting older doesn't mean becoming invisible or worthless. It doesn't mean accepting treatment that diminishes your worth or tolerates disrespect from people who should love you unconditionally. Sometimes it means we finally learned exactly when to fight and how to do it with grace, dignity, and yes, a little bit of well-deserved silence. Remember, your value was never determined by what you could provide for others. It was always determined by who you are, how you love, and how you choose to be remembered. Don't let anyone, not even your own children, convince you otherwise.